Peter Michael Falk, born on September 16, 1927 in New York City, grew up in a working-class household where resilience was not a lesson but a necessity. At just 3 years old, he lost his right eye to retinoblastoma, a rare form of cancer, an experience that might have limited many but instead strengthened his resolve. Falk learned early how to adapt, using humor, intelligence, and curiosity to navigate a world that often underestimates difference. His glass eye later became part of his unmistakable screen presence, adding character rather than detracting from it. Raised by practical, hardworking parents, Falk developed humility and grit, traits that stayed with him throughout his life. These early experiences shaped his worldview, giving him empathy for struggle and a low tolerance for pretense, qualities that would later influence not only his acting style, but also his candid opinions about the industry he entered. An unconventional path to the craft of acting. Falk's journey to acting was anything but straightforward. After serving as a cook in the United States Merchant Marine during World War II, he pursued higher education with seriousness, earning degrees in political science and public administration. He even worked as a government analyst, a stable career that promised security but little fulfillment. Acting, however, kept calling him back. Community theater reignited a passion he could no longer ignore, leading him to study at the Actors Studio alongside future legends. Falk approached acting with the same discipline he brought to academics, treating it as a craft rather than a shortcut to fame. His early stage and television work revealed an actor deeply invested in authenticity. By the time Hollywood took notice, Falk had already developed strong convictions about professionalism, collaboration, and respect, standards that would shape both his celebrated performances and his more critical views of certain working relationships. Early recognition and a rising reputation. Falk's film breakthrough came with Murder, Inc. in 1960, earning him an Academy Award nomination and immediate credibility as a serious actor. Another nomination followed soon after, confirming that his talent was no accident. He became known for portraying complicated, morally layered characters, bringing humanity to roles that could have easily become caricatures. Falk valued emotional truth over surface-level charm, and this commitment earned him respect among directors and peers. Yet even as his reputation grew, he remained grounded and observant. He paid close attention to how actors treated one another on set, how power was used, and whether collaboration was genuine. These observations quietly informed his opinions. Falk admired talent wherever he saw it, but he also believed that success should never excuse arrogance or disrespect. This belief would later frame how he spoke, carefully but firmly, about professional incompatibilities. The creation of a cultural icon. In 1968, Peter Falk became Lieutenant Columbo, a role that permanently etched him into television history. The character's rumpled appearance and seemingly distracted manner concealed a sharp, methodical mind, a balance Falk played with extraordinary nuance. Columbo wasn't flashy or domineering. He disarmed through humility and persistence. This approach reflected Falk's own philosophy about intelligence and power. He believed strength didn't need to announce itself loudly. The show's success brought him widespread affection and multiple Emmy Awards, but it also deepened his belief in subtlety and collaboration. Falk credited writers, directors, and fellow actors for Columbo's success, reinforcing his view that great work emerges from mutual respect. This mindset made him sensitive to environments where ego overshadowed teamwork. His later comments about certain colleagues were not expressions of hatred, but reflections of how deeply he valued shared creative responsibility. A career marked by range and integrity beyond Columbo, Falk enjoyed a remarkably diverse career, moving effortlessly between comedy, drama, and independent cinema. His work with director John Cassavetes allowed him to explore raw emotional territory, while films like The In-Laws showcased his comedic timing. Even in lighter roles, Falk brought sincerity and intelligence, never coasting on reputation alone. He approached every project with preparation and curiosity, believing audiences deserved honesty regardless of genre. Off-screen, he was known for kindness and loyalty, qualities that contrasted with the intensity of some collaborators he encountered. Falk did not expect everyone to share his temperament, but he did expect basic decency. When those expectations weren't met, he remembered, not out of bitterness, but out of principle. For Falk, professionalism wasn't optional, it was the foundation of meaningful creative work. Candid reflections on professional friction. In rare, private conversations later in life, Falk acknowledged that not every working relationship was harmonious. He spoke not in terms of hatred, but of incompatibility. Some actors, he felt, allowed ego to dominate the room, making collaboration difficult. Falk believed intensity was valuable only when paired with respect. He reportedly struggled with personalities that treated sets as battlegrounds rather than shared spaces. These reflections were not meant for public consumption and lacked the nuance that headlines often demand. Falk never denied the talent of those he found challenging. In fact, he frequently praised their work. His frustration lay in how talent was wielded. To him, greatness lost its meaning when it diminished others. These candid remarks, later repeated without context, evolved into exaggerated stories of animosity. In truth, Falk's concerns were rooted in values, not vendettas, rivalry, comparison, and media myth-making. As a television icon, Falk was inevitably compared to other prominent actors, especially those portraying strong personalities or authority figures. Media narratives often amplified supposed rivalries, turning philosophical differences into dramatic feuds. Falk disliked this framing. He believed comparison cheapened individual artistry and encouraged competition over creativity. When he pushed back against certain ideas or comments, it was usually in defense of character integrity or storytelling, not personal pride. Over time, selective anecdotes were stripped of their original tone and intent. What began as thoughtful critique hardened into claims of disdain. Falk rarely corrected these stories, preferring silence to spectacle. He understood how easily the public narrative could overshadow reality. His focus remained on the work itself, trusting that time would reveal the difference between rumor and truth, and between thoughtful disagreement and genuine hostility. Personal life, loyalty, and private values. Falk's personal life revealed a man deeply committed to those he loved. His marriages, particularly his long union with Shara Denise, reflected devotion and partnership. He was a father who tried, imperfectly but sincerely, to balance career demands with family life. Friends described him as generous and attentive, someone who remembered kindness and remembered slights but rarely held on to anger. Loyalty mattered greatly to him. When he felt disrespected, especially publicly, it lingered not as rage but as disappointment. Falk believed character was revealed in small moments, how people treated crew members, how they handled disagreement. These beliefs guided his private judgments far more than fame or reputation. Understanding this context transforms his so-called list of disliked actors into something far more human, a record of moments where his core values were challenged. Final years and quiet dignity. In his later years, Falk faced declining health, including Alzheimer's disease. With quiet dignity, the sharp-minded audiences adored slowly faded, a painful irony for an actor defined by intellect and observation. Throughout this period, he was cared for by family, shielded from unnecessary attention. When he passed away on June 23, 2011, tributes focused not on controversy, but on warmth, humor, and originality. Colleagues remembered his generosity and curiosity, not rumored grudges. Fans mourned a character who felt like a friend. In death, as in life, Falk remained more complex than headlines suggested. His legacy is not defined by who he found difficult, but by how deeply he cared about honesty, respect, and the collaborative spirit of storytelling that made his work endure. A legacy rooted in humanity, not hatred. Peter Falk's story reminds us that strong opinions do not equal cruelty. His candid reflections on difficult professional relationships were expressions of deeply held values, not personal malice. He believed art flourished in environments of mutual respect and sincerity, and he resisted anything that threatened that balance. Over time, those beliefs were simplified into tales of dislike, losing their original context. When viewed honestly, Falk emerges not as a man driven by resentment, but as one guided by principle. His career, filled with nuance and heart, reflects that truth far more clearly than any rumored list ever could. In the end, Falk is remembered for what he gave to audiences: intelligence without arrogance, humor without cruelty, and a reminder that authenticity, both on screen and off, is what truly lasts.